Hi, Dr. Dara here, Truth with Dr. Dara. Welcome. Glad to be here. Just going to give a moment to see who else pops on. Today we're going to talk about stop shoulding all over yourself. Exactly. What does that mean? Well, here we are, and we're starting the new year in just a matter of hours, really. I see, Madi, you just came on, a couple others. Welcome. Dr. Dara here, Truth with Dr. Dara. Today we're talking about stop shoulding all over. Like I said, we're just hours from the new year starting. Can you believe it? I can't. And I feel like so many people are just asking themselves and talking about what they should have done differently this year. Are you asking yourself whether you should have lost more weight, or you should have gotten a new job, you should have saved more money, all the things that you should have done? And many of us get very stuck, and then it comes to setting new goals and this new idea of a clean slate, and it gets very skewed and very jaded because you don't know what to do. You feel so stuck. This week I got asked a question about feeling like a failure and what do? And really at the end of the day, you do nothing, because the more you put energy in a certain direction, the more it's going to increase. So if all you're doing is focusing on what you should have been doing, you're going to be doing more of what you thought you should have been doing, therefore doing more of what you don't want to be doing. So I'm going to dive right in with the question that I got right here. And to the first question I got this week, besides the one that I went over on Wednesday, was how can I stop feeling like a failure for not accomplishing my goals? Well, the first thing I want you to really focus and think on is that you couldn't have done it any different than the way that you did it. Nothing can be done any different. And really, it's just the way that your mind is thinking that's getting stuck. It's not about you at all. It's about the way that your mind is processing the data or the information. Some of us call it memories, and the way that it's been coming in. And what happens is that our mind gets stuck thinking of old information as being current. So for example, I had somebody in here a couple months ago, and he was a veteran, and he came in because every time he would hear fireworks, he would have a very strong reaction. Some people call this PTSD. But you know, our minds all deal with this in different degrees. A trauma doesn't have to be a little trauma. It could be a little T or a big T. It's just the way that our mind reads information that gets stuck. So for this guy that came in and was a veteran, he was hearing, every time he was hearing fireworks, his mind was thinking that something needed to be done. He was literally having a strong reaction. He had been in Iraq a couple months or a couple years prior. And so his mind kept thinking that when the firework went off, that it was gunfire. So he was being responsive and his senses were heightening. He would get sweaty, a heart rate would elevate. He would literally start shaking, which would be a strong response for a firework, but not so much from gunfire. So we let his mind know that nothing needed to be done because the mind was responding to the old information as being current, and he was thinking that's what was going on for him, which is what happens for athletes all the time, and that's what happens for us in our everyday lives. So when people are shoulding all over themselves and thinking about the way that it should have been or how they wanted it done before, your mind is just thinking about old information. Because if you're in the present moment, you're not thinking about the past, and you're not thinking about what's gonna happen. You're right here, right now. I see a couple more popped on. Hi, Mom. Hi, Elise. It's great to have you guys on here. If you have any questions, just go ahead and type them in at the bottom, and I'll be able to see them. If I don't answer right away, please jump it in again. Anybody just joining, we're talking about getting stuck with shoulding all over yourself the way that things should have been for you in the past and blocking you from moving ahead. So first, we just went over the idea that it's not what's going on for you, it's the way that your mind has been misreading the information, creating that stuckness. The brain is amazing how it works when it comes to reading the data, and people will ask me, well, should I redo my goals? If I didn't get done what I wanted to do last year, should I start over? Or should I set new ones? Well, really, it's not about what you didn't do, because where you want to focus is where you want things to get done. So if all you're doing is focusing on what's not working, you're going to get more of what doesn't work. Just like if I say to you, all right, I want you to think of a pink elephant. You're thinking of a pink elephant, right? Okay, now stop thinking of a pink elephant. You can't stop thinking of that pink elephant. Your mind only hears the command. It doesn't hear stop, and it doesn't hear don't, which is what happens when we're thinking about what we didn't do last year. We're just increasing the potential of us not doing it in the current year, which is exactly what we don't want to do. So first and foremost, I want you to go over what your feats were, your successes, what went well for you in 2018. What do you want to bring more of into 2019? So that is really critical, because if you're just focusing on what didn't happen, you're going to get more of what you don't want. And we want more of what you do want. And when you are focusing on what you do want, I want you to have PP parties. What is that, Dara? That sounds crazy. Well, in 2018, I had some big milestones in my house. We got a puppy. And my son started going to the bathroom in his big boy underwear. So what would go on is, if the dog went to the bathroom in the house, I could sit there and just shame him and yell at him for what he did. Or when he went outside, I could get excited and have a pee-pee party. So my neighbors think I'm a little wonky, because they would hear this noise, this high-pitched squeal of, yes, Denzel, yes, good potty outside. But every time he was getting excited, so then he was going outside more and more. And the same thing with my son. You know, it was just a couple months ago, we looked outside and we saw him go into the bathroom. I know, really silly, but the dogs were. It would make sense. So I had to make a decision, because number one, I was laughing. So I either had to laugh in front of him, I either had to tell him, hey, that's not what we do, or I'm just going to ignore it. And guess what? I ignored it, and it hasn't happened again. Because I get that that's just a thing that kids do, and kids are going to go to the bathroom in all kinds of crazy places, but I want to give them excitement and attention when they go just the place that I want them to. So when my son went to the bathroom in the potty, right after we did that, there was a pee-pee party. We got so excited. Yes, great job going pee-pee in the potty. I know some of this sounds really silly, but I want you to celebrate those accomplishments. I want you to get that excited. So when you're going through about the things that went well for you in 2018, I want you to give it a little fist pump and get excited, because if you don't, nobody else is going to. So if you're giving it gratitude and attention, you're going to get more out of it. And I know all of you on the call right now and on the video, you know kids, and you know that works. The more you tell them to be quiet, the louder they get. The more I tell my mind to stop doing things, the more it does it. So I want to bring out all those strengths and attributes for the upcoming year. Squash your should-haves. Squash them. Just take them and squish them, because we're putting all this energy of focusing on comparing our insides to other people's outsides. I want you right now in this moment to focus on you, what's going well for you, and not how everything else is, because comparison is the death of joy. I know we're on Facebook right now, and when you get off with this, if you get done and you keep going through and scrolling through and seeing what is going amazing for everybody else, then the more challenging that you're making it for yourself, because you're making unrealistic expectations and goals. And next week we're going to talk more about those expectations and goals, but right now I want to clear out the way that your mind has been thinking about these things and been getting stuck, because if I'm constantly telling myself the way that it's been, that's where my mind stays. So I'm asking that we ask our minds to see it the way that it's already happened. Seeing it done, seeing it completed, seeing it in that way is going to get us there where we want to go. So if my goal is to move forward and to get a new job, I want you to see yourself in that new job. Write it out. Talk about it as if it's already happened. Because again, our brain, the messages and the way that it reads things is really kind of simple. We think it's so complicated, but it's very simple. If your brain hears you saying things and doing things, it responds and the energy follows behind it. So if you're talking about the job that you can't get and how difficult it would be, guess what? You're not getting that job. Hi Sue, hi Lynn, I see a couple more of you popped on. We are talking about stop shoulding all over yourself. Exactly. What does that mean? That means giving yourself credit for the things that you are doing and recognizing that it's just the way that our mind has been thinking about things that has been getting stuck with us. Jacqueline, wow, we've got you guys calling from all over the country. This is really exciting. I'm glad to have all of you guys on. If you have any questions, please be sure to write them and I'll be able to answer them for you. Or if you have any comments, pop them in. Please say hi and I'll try to send you a wave back. So continuing forward about the way that our mind has been thinking about things, because it's been our unconscious mind that's been getting stuck. Because all of you know exactly how you're feeling and what you're thinking. Just like if I saw a guy and he was in my lobby right now and he was listening to a phone and he was listening to a song. And all of a sudden he starts shaking the Bluetooth. He starts shaking it and like ready to step on it. Well, where he would want to change the song from would be from the phone or from the iPad, not from the Bluetooth itself. So what's going on most of the time is people say, oh, well, I need to change the way that I'm thinking. Well, but it's not happening. Where you're feeling it is not where it's happening from. So we want to connect those and recognize that where these thoughts are coming from a level below conscious awareness, because none of you woke up in the January 1st, 2018 and said, let me figure out how to not achieve my goals, correct? You went out with the best of intentions. Somewhere along the wire, it got a little mixed up because what you were putting out there wasn't aligning with what you were thinking and what you were doing. So pushing those should-haves out of the way and again, acknowledging that it couldn't have been any different than it was, because I can't clap in the past any more than I can snap in the future. Nothing could be done to do it any different than it was. If I took my hand right now and I put it into the sand and it left an imprint, it wouldn't be currently leaving an imprint. The imprint would have already happened. So it's something that already played out and there's nothing that can be done with it. Let me know if you guys are not keeping up with me or if you have any questions. And the last question that I have was in regards to whether your thoughts or what you can do when you're feeling guilty about what other people are saying. Well, you know, the same way that our thoughts get caught in unconscious mind, I'm going to tell you something. I know my mom told me this, and maybe your mom told you this, but what people say does not mean that it is the truth. You ever heard that thing, I'm rubber and you're glue, and whatever you say bounces off of me and right back to you? Well, what they say doesn't matter any more than the thoughts that you have, because often we are thinking that the thoughts that we're having are truth, and they're just thoughts. They're just the same as birds squawking. I mean, you don't see birds flying into trees because they're not having preoccupation. They're not thinking about what should have happened or what's gonna happen. They're right there, right now, going from point A to point B. I know some of you are saying every once in a while they run into a windshield. Yes, but there's some preoccupation, but generally that's not happening. So when there are thoughts that are coming in, you can't stop them, but you don't have to entertain them either, because they don't have to be the truth. I think of it like a pendulum. If you had a scale, I want to get one of those old scales where you're weighing things and often the shoulds are weighing it down and weighing it down. Well, I don't want to take away the shoulds and make them go away. I'm thinking what we want to do is we want to sprinkle it on of more of what we do want. Jacqueline says, I only should myself when I see others envious of my success and I allow them to put me down. Example would be invited to create a flower video for a big company. Someone is looking at that in a negative light. So I don't want to do it then and regret it later, right? Well, the thing is jealousy is the biggest form of flattery. I know that sounds odd, but it really is, and people are going to be jealous of you. There's always going to be somebody who is jealous of what you're doing, but really what they're saying is, I want that too. And so I think what you're saying, Jacqueline, I hope that I'm following, it's a little hard for me to read it, is that it stops you from doing things, and I'm thinking do it more, do it bigger, because really what's going to happen is you're going to lead by example. That energy that you're putting out is going to be amazing, and whatever they have to say is just what it has to say. I mean, I have to tell you, I get sweaty pits every time I press the go live button, because there's this little voice inside of me that's possibly thinking what other people might think of me, or if I mess up, or if I don't do it good enough, and then when I press the end button, there's this flash that goes through me, and it's my should button. I start shoulding all over myself, thinking that I should have done things differently, or I should have said this, or I should have said that. I should have looked a certain way, blah, blah, blah. So I'm shoulding all over. But at the end of the day, I couldn't have done it any different than what I did it. And what I know is that I just pushed myself and I went for it, despite how I'm feeling. So if there's any fear around it, I just do it anyway. And if there's any thoughts around what somebody else else might think about it, I don't care, because there's going to be a certain amount of people that I get to connect with and I get to have an impact with, and that's what matters. So every time I see one of you on here, I'm having a PP party. Every time I get a comment, I'm having a PP party, because I know that I've planted a seed and I've made a connection. And so therefore, if I had that scale out and there's that weight that's shutting me down, that other stuff is going to raise it up. So it's not thinking that you don't have to, or it's wrong to be thinking how things were. It just is what it is, but it doesn't mean that there's anything that we have to do with it any more than the veteran I was talking about that was in war, and when he would hear a gunfire go off, he would hear the fireworks going off and have a strong reaction, that he needed to do anything about it. It was just his mind reading some information, getting a hold of things, but there was nothing that he needed to do any different than the way that it was doing it. It's just a notification. In fact, every time I get the shoulds, it lets me know that I care. Because if I wasn't thinking about it in that way, it would mean that I didn't care. I didn't give a shift, right? But I know that I care, and I have great interest in what other people think. And I do have great interest in how well I do it. But that's what makes me me. That's what makes me continue to do it, to try to do harder, and to be successful. So I'm really good with any of you who do experience having the shoulds, because you have interest in moving ahead. If you weren't thinking about it, then you wouldn't be setting your goals or moving ahead where you would like to go. Jacqueline, did I do okay with answering that? Anybody else? Do we have any questions, comments? Again, go ahead and write them down below if you do, because this is the idea of where our mind gets stuck, of thinking how it should be doing things different than the way that it's been doing. And if I am a negative person, negative thoughts are gonna be what propels me and attracts more of that negative things that I don't want. So once again, as we're getting ready to close up, just really focusing in that thoughts are just thoughts. It doesn't mean that there's anything that you have to do with them. The thoughts that you're having are amazing, because it's of interest and of value for you to be doing more and different things. I don't care what happened in 2018. Find what did work, have your PP party about it, and keep moving ahead. Next week, we're going to talk about goals versus expectations as we're moving in to the new year. If you haven't been involved in the challenge, there's still a couple more days left in the 2019 pre-shift challenge. For those of you that have been participating, thank you so much. It has been awesome. I've been having a good time, and it has been a big challenge for me because I'm at 43 days of posting things every single day. So if you have missed one, you can always go back, and it's going to be available to you afterwards. And if you are feeling stuck and feeling like you have got the shoulds and you want to move ahead, please reach out to me and let's do a rapid resolution therapy session. And could you imagine in just a couple of hours leaving and feeling clear and no longer feeling any guilt, and your mind updated and rebooted and ready for the new year? So things that have been weighing you down, feeling stuck, no longer exist. I know you might say, how does that happen? Well, RRT is where there's been negative emotion and connection, shifting that to positive or feelings of indifference so that it no longer has that same extreme emotionality for you. So I'm Dr. Dara. This is Truth with Dr. Dara. Looking forward to next year. Every Friday at noon, gonna have Truth with Dr. Dara. Keep the questions coming. Jump in the private group. And there's a lot of exciting things coming up this year. In just a few months, I'm going to be launching my book, which is really just, I'm just so grateful for all of you to be on my journey for this. So thanks for tuning in, and happy, happy, happy New Year. Bye, everybody. Take care.